Hi. I was actually just thinking about the noise and about the things that I find a lot on the internet and in different reels on Instagram and so on and so forth. And this is about noise. So um, I practiced different so-called spiritual practices for, well, 1 year and a half, that's for sure, like every single day. At the end of this period, even twice a day for quite a long time. I practiced meditation, I practiced subconscious repatterning, I practiced channeling, I practiced psychic readings, I practiced tarot readings. I, I practiced self-healing. I practiced theta healing. Like so many things went through my hands basically, and it really did change me a lot. Um, but then when I came back to my country, at that time I was living in a different place, in a different country. But then I came back to my native land and faced with um, very same patterns that I healed myself um, from my family. Um, I kind of came back a little bit. We never really go back anywhere. It's always progress, but that's how it just feels. Like everything you've been doing was for nothing, and you just rolled back to where you started. Um, and at that time, I was thinking that it's really a curse. Like, I was confused, I was hectic, I could not understand why this happened and what it means and how I can heal myself again and come back again to that version which I tasted for a while and which I really loved. Um, But thankfully, now that I'm looking back, I see that because I'm able to experience this contrast. So when we begin in our daily life, we basically think that we live normally. We call it normal. I think that in modern days, so many things are called normal just because a lot of people living this way, but they're actually not okay at all. And I think that in sooner days, even like when people tell you, oh, I have depression, many people will say, oh, that's normal. That is not normal, but we do not know that until we experience something different, until we begin to feel ourselves differently. Then we will realize that, oh, apparently that wasn't normal at all. This now is much better and I'm feeling better. And at that time, I was living a sick life and having sick habits and sick emotional and mental states. So it is always about contrast. And I think because of me being able to experience coming back from normal to wow, this is normal, this is healthy, and then dropping again into a pool of subconscious beliefs that limit you and just make you crazy. And now being here and climbing again, now this time consciously, because at the first time when I just began practicing, that wasn't really very consciously because I was just curious and I was just open and I was just trying so many things. So if you ask me what exactly helped me, I can point you some things, but that wouldn't be very specific because I don't really know. I tried so many things, and I think all of them together kind of combined that would help me to really free myself from so many things that used to limit me and scare me and self-sabotage myself, basically. So now climbing from here consciously, that's a whole different story. And I understand that what actually happened to me, I think that was just in terms of um, physicality, okay? It is my nervous system completely relaxing because that's how I felt. I did not feel any anxiety, any fear, any doubt. During the day, there was no chaotic thoughts. Like, there was no thoughts really. I was just observing life and I was totally content with it, totally happy with that. And it is really true that in those states, um, you begin to touch God or whatever you want to call it. I don't want to offend anyone, but this is just how it feels. It feels like you are touching something so incredibly. I don't even know how to describe this really, but it's just complete openness and eternity and love and wisdom, yes, and all those things, but it's just you can't really put it into words. I think it's just a feeling. And at those in those states, it is also true that you don't really bother yourself much with any earthy wants and desires. Like, I remember at that time I didn't have an anxiety for money. I didn't have an anxiety for future, for myself, for my looks, for my attitudes, for how people see me. I didn't care about it because I was totally, completely fine with who I am and what I do and where I am and how I look like. And I didn't care. I was looking in the mirror and I was like, I'm great. And it's not an in egoic sense. You just begin to love yourself. You begin to really nurture yourself and care for yourself. Uh, and that is actually one of the things that scared me later on, is that I realized that I don't have a desire and need to earn money. And that really scared me because a lot of thoughts came in saying, so how are you going to survive? How are you going to live? But internally, the spirit, the soul, my true self, heart, whatever you call it, I don't care. The inside me, the true me, was just saying, just keep posting, keep doing, keep sharing, whatever you're doing, just keep doing it, and that felt great. But my mind was very scared. Um, so yeah, what actually happens is my nervous system um, completely relaxed, totally relaxed. And I healed all my organs. I healed all my eczema, my acne, my psoriasis. I healed um, my teeth, by the way. I healed a lot of things, really, in my hair, like everything. It just was completely renewed. I think like even my eyesight, I know that may sound a bit extreme, but even my eyesight, I remember walking at that time and I was seeing fine. Like, I wasn't completely 100% pure eyesight, but was much better. It wasn't so blurry. So I dropped weight. I dropped weight. It was it was just incredibly purifying. And yes, my nervous system was totally, completely silent and quiet and peaceful. And it's just beautiful. It's really is beautiful. And so the question is, how we do that? How do I relax my nervous system? Because when you relax your nervous system, your whole life basically changes. So how do you relax it? Well, your nervous system got like this because of life events and the way you saw these life events, the way you interpret them back then, and the way you understood them at that time. And so that's just my opinion, and that's how I was doing it, and that's how I plan to do it right now. But consciously, you your task is to come back, to dig into your subconscious, because your nervous system is your subconscious. You become like this because of your beliefs, because of your thoughts, because you constantly think what people think, what your relatives think, this, that, how I look, and all this stuff. So your main goal is to really dig into the most painful experiences in your life. And I remember myself at that time. I even remember one time crying so hard. I never cried like this before. It's like as if my chest was being opened and all the pain was pouring out. I remember sitting in my bedroom at that time, and it was scary and terrifying at that point, really, because I never cried like this before. It was such a yearn to be heard, calling for something. And so you really go deep into your subconscious and you re-watch the situations. And then at this point, I do understand that my mind, my conscious mind, knows very little. And actually only perceives. Okay. My conscious mind doesn't give me answers. It only perceives the answers. So what I used to actually get a new perspective on a situation, to actually understand what was going on and why I approached the situation that way. And you may come back, I even remember myself coming back into my mother's womb. It was a very exotic experience, feeling yourself fully surrounded, because I found myself in such a dark but warm space, and I instantly realized I'm like sitting like inside of my mom. That was very exotic but surreal experience, really. You may come back as far as that and even further, by the way. And to get a new understanding, so usually I would find myself in a situation, I would describe myself how I feel, because when you describe how you feel, you can do it better if you do it out loud. You help your subconscious mind to merge even deeper. That's what we do in a hypnotherapy, in regression sessions. I ask, and many people, I believe, who do this, practitioners, we ask people to describe in as much detail as you can, so that you can merge and you can kind of like bond with this memory, and more will come out, will be easier for you to feel. And you also train your senses, your intuition, your memory, your all these extra senses, basically you train them. So I view the situation, I describe where I am, I describe what is going on, and then I watch the whole scenario coming in, and then I might ask questions. Why am I here? What is this about? Why do I feel this way? Where is it coming from? So your task is basically follow this little, ask questions to keep going, to the root. What is actually there? Why am I actually being brought by my subconscious mind here? Why it is important for me to watch exactly this particular moment? And then at the end, when I observe the situation and I'm like, yeah, I'm getting what's happening. And then I usually would ask my subconscious, or if you believe in something else, because at that time, I realized that there are indeed forces or energies, whatever, that are much higher than I am, than my mind. And so at that time, I already had a pretty strong belief in that. I did not doubt. Um, and so I would usually ask my higher self, or angels, or archangels, or spirit guides, or whoever you believe in, okay? God, Source, Jesus, uh, anything that you know for you is good, and you usually um, call for it when you need help. So I would call for that and I would ask, okay, what was actually happening? What do I need to understand? And then again, you just trust your vision. You just trust your vision, and you observe and describe what is happening in your mind eye. Because the picture, the memory, it will shift a little bit. That's the most interesting part. And that's where I usually will begin to cry, begin to feel, to you really understand. So basically it's like on your subconscious level, on a deep level, on that very painful memory. It's like you open your eyes and you're like, whoa. So this is what was happening, this is how it is. And in that scene, you can also don't limit yourself. You can do literally anything in there, as long as you're um, open to receive and perceive. You will be able to do so, and you can even ask. You can even feel other people's emotions in there. What did my mom feel at that time? And you begin to feel it. So yeah, and that's how I processed all those situations and got an understanding what was actually happening there. And that really humbles you. It really humbles you, and it really shows you how much you were angry and unforgiving towards other people when you had actually no idea what they were going through and what was actually happening and why they were actually acting this way towards you. Because when you understand this on a deep level, emotional level, you felt them, there is no offendance. There is no offendance. No offense, sorry. You're not offended at all. You cannot be, because you understand the pain of another human being, and probably this human being is a very close person to you. And you actually feel how much you're actually loved. But that love could not be expressed in a certain way because, and you get an understanding why, and you forgive. You forgive. What's interesting is that in most cases we think that we need to forgive somebody. I need to forgive my mom, I need to forgive my dad, I need to forgive blah blah. But actually, in most cases, you will find out that you have to forgive yourself. And even situations like I have to forgive myself because I can't forgive my mother. I want to forgive myself for not forgiving my loved ones. It's really, in most cases, just that. Forgiving myself for not forgiving myself. Just even like this. It's very deep. Usually these things, they sound absurd, but these things are one of the most deepest ones. Not loving and not forgiving yourself for everything, really. For everything. So when you realize all this pain and you process it properly, you give yourself time. And I spent, again, 1.5 years for doing that. 1 year, that's for sure. But that's for me, of course. You may have different timing. It's very personal. Um, I felt how much more free I became, how much more open and loving I became. I became so compassionate towards my family, towards people around me, that it was impossible to offend me in any way, because again, you're compassionate, you understand that people act this way because of their own pain, and you literally, you there's no reason to be offended. There is a reason to 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 nurture them, to show them love, and to listen to them and to understand them, but not to get offended by whatever they say or do. If it's not the person who nourishes you, you just walk away. You don't feel guilty about it. And you walk away in a very natural, very harmonious way, gracefully. And so when the nervous system relaxes, because of that, because of your repatterning, because of your humbling, your importance, then you heal. Then the whole process just is immediate. It is an immediate process. But what's important is the continuous practice with the outside world as well. Because when you just practice in your bedroom, that's one scenario. But when you go out in the real world, and just like me, you face people who are still, how should I put it? It's not that they are lower or worse. No, it's just that people who live on those beliefs that you decided not to follow anymore. This can be challenging. In most cases, it is challenging for that person because they do not understand you anymore. And here is the trick. You feel that you're not understood. Now you face that very thing that you healed, being okay with not being understood, being okay with not being accepted, being okay with not being loved, because you found your inner strength within you, and now you face that with the very people you love, and not all of them will understand you, and that's fine. And here is a different challenge which I cannot comment on just yet, and cannot really give you advice because it really affected me a lot at that time. So I am still processing and still am recovering from that. But it is indeed a very valuable lesson when you face the reality out of your bedroom and apply everything you've learned in a real world with people, with those very same people. That's a quite different experience, and a very teaching one, and a very beautiful one actually, because it slowly embraces you to keep going, and it slowly embraces you to choose yourself. And again, now consciously choosing to love yourself, to forgive yourself, to nurture yourself, and love, forgive, and nurture others. But this time you do it consciously, not out of curiosity, not out of pain, but you're content, and you choose that every day, as much as you can, slowly. So it's kind of like really building into your life, and that is beautiful. Well, that's what I wanted to share with you. And if you will have any comments or questions, please feel free to leave them below this video. I thank so much for your time, for your attention, and have a wonderful, wonderful day ahead. Thank you so much. See you in my next video. Bye.